residents of LumberJillville to the ultimate grudge match, Mayor Aaron versus co-mayor Alexa. Today they will be competing head-to-head for a valuable prize. That's right, hanging high above is the Money in the Bank briefcase. The first competitor to retrieve the briefcase will be rewarded with the opportunity to review the new Tiffany Stratton Ultimate Edition figure.
Oh, I'm so gonna grab that thing.
Competitors, are you ready?
Woo! Listen, I came out of the womb ready for this moment.
Gross. Yes, sure. Let's get this dumb game started.
On your marks, get set, go!
Wait, how the frick am I supposed to reach that briefcase with these little dingleberry ladders?
I'm not sure. We did not hang it up there to begin with.
Wait, if you didn't set it up then, no way.
Yep. Make way, coming through. Miscusey.
Are you kidding me? That's not fair.
Me. That's you. That's what you sound like. That's exactly what you sound like right now. But excuse me, I have a briefcase to grab. Well, looks like I'll be reviewing the Ultimate Edition Tiffany Stratton figure today. Oh, co-mayor Alexa, what are you doing down there? Stop it, get away! You know I'm afraid of heights! Oh. At least I had my helmet on. I think I'm bleeding internally. Oh. Hey y'all, welcome to LumberJillville. Women's wrestling lives here. It is Tiffy time in LJV. I'm super excited to review this figure, but before we get into the review, I just want to remind you to please hit subscribe to become an official resident of LJV and get a first look at all future women's wrestling figure reviews. So yes, this Mattel WWE Ultimate Edition Series 28 Tiffany Stratton looks amazing. I'm real curious about the likeness in hand to see if it looks better than the images online, but either way, it definitely looks better than the previous releases we've gotten of her in the Mattel line. But what I'm really excited about with this figure is the brand new Ultimate Edition articulation in the waist that we're going to have on the women moving forward. So yeah, I'm excited to look at that articulation, but also this figure. So without further ado, let's start off taking a closer look at the packaging. So I really do love the Ultimate Edition style packaging because it's stayed uniform throughout the years. Sometimes we get color variants and whatnot, but the overall shape, design, and so on has pretty much remained the same. So if you're an Ultimate Edition only collector, especially mint on card, you probably have a really nice display setup. But yeah, I really love the Ultimate Edition style packaging because even though the Elite style packaging has gone through some lackluster changes over the years, Ultimate Edition packaging has stayed pretty standard and I really like it. I love that we have this nice open window. This would look amazing autographed. We get to see everything inside, which is cool, and we'll get to everything included in the next segment when we unbox it here. But yes, we have her name at the top. We have an image of the beautiful and talented Tiffany Stratton on the side. The other side is her name. Now, what I love about these Ultimate Edition figures is on the back of the packaging, they always have figure photography in the top and then a bottom image of what the attire is from. So basically a reenactment of the attire here in figure photography. But I will say, looking at this face on the back of the packaging, that looks like Carmella. That looks exactly like Carmella. Now we'll see how the scans look in hand, but that is not a very flattering image of the scan and sculpt, because that face does indeed look like the best Carmella face we've ever gotten, which is interesting. And then we have a little blurb down here. What time is it? It's Tiffy time. After winning the women's Money in the Bank match in 2024, Tiffany Stratton cashed in her briefcase on the first SmackDown of 2025, becoming the WWE Women's Champion and ushering in the prettiest era ever in WWE. So we have her stats on the side there, which is very cool. Now, as far as unboxing goes, Ultimate Edition packages are the best for unboxing. You cut the tape at the top, the side, the bottom, and then it just opens up. So let's take all of this out. Let's take a closer look. WWE Ultimate Edition Series 28 Tiffany Stratton. This attire is from the WWE Money in the Bank 2024 Premium Live event that took place on July 6th from Toronto, Ontario, Canada. On this night, Tiffany would win the women's Money in the Bank ladder match, becoming Miss Money in the Bank, securing a women's championship match contract. So as far as my overall first impressions of this figure is beautiful. There's definitely so much going on here with the sculpting, with the personality, and I absolutely love it. Now, I know a lot of people online are saying, why didn't she come with the WWE Women's Championship? And yes, that would have been a nice addition. Now, some may say, well, when she wore this attire in that Money in the Bank ladder match, she didn't win the title that night, so that wouldn't make sense. However, it almost doesn't make sense that we have this unique Money in the Bank briefcase, because this isn't what the briefcase looked like when she wore this attire and won it. So later on, she would redesign it. We'll take a closer look at this in a minute. So I will say that. Also, she does have that new articulation at the waist. I believe it's like a barbell articulation. Think of the Legends of Lucha Libre premium figures like the Taya. We'll bring that out later and do a little side-by-side. But yeah, I really like the waist articulation because it allows them to put more effort and more design in the bottoms of the female wrestlers. So, and I will say the likeness is pretty good. We'll take an up-close look at the next segment and really see if they nailed it or not. But yeah, I think the likeness upon first impressions is good. But I think what really stands out is the attire. Now, she comes packaged with an alternate head with the Serious scan. We'll take a look at in the next segment. She also comes with C-grip grasping hands. She also comes with 2 pointer fingers and then 2 kind of unique hand designs that you can pose her in many different ways, which is very cool. And then we have this Money in the Bank briefcase, this pink one. It's got Tiffy time on the O and Money in the Bank. It is really cool, and I love that it has this strap. And by the way, this strap has a lot of design to it, a lot of detail, not just with the sculpting, but the paint application, the buckle is painted gold. This is a really, really cool accessory, and it's really cool that it is, both sides of it is decorated. Now, opening it up, I think it opens up. It should open up. Probably the easiest way is just to kind of boop. And there we go. We can open it up and put a contract in there or whatever you may please. But yeah, so this design is a really cool design. I really, really like it. And I'm glad they included it. Even more so than the Women's Championship, because we'll be getting that plenty. Whereas I don't know many opportunities they'll have to give us this accessory. So I really like it. Alright, so taking a closer look at the face sculpt, face scan, and hair sculpt. This is the head she comes packaged with. And I definitely don't think it is all that great. I honestly don't think it looks like Carmella like the back of the package. But I will say that this sculpt and scan ain't it. And I don't really know what it is. I don't know if they don't have the right sculpt design because she has a very unique face shape. And I don't know if they're having trouble sculpting that or what. But yeah, this sculpt and scan is not very good in my opinion. Especially because they've had multiple times to attempt a sculpt and scan for Tiffany. And I feel like they've kind of whiffed it every single time. So yeah, not a fan of this one here. I mean, if you look at it, You can kind of see Tiffany, but yep, I see Carmella right there a lot more. But the hair sculpt here is okay. I mean, it's nice that we have the bangs kind of going over there. We have the hair going over her shoulder. You can see that it's kind of pinned back in that ponytail on top, so the hair sculpt is nice. But I'll also say that this one shade of yellow is also not it. I don't know why Mattel really struggles with adding detail to the women's hair in their wrestling figures. I don't understand. Like, Jazzwares has done a good job of adding highlights, dark root colors. Not all the time, but they do dabble in that. And Mattel just really doesn't, right? So I wish we would have a more realistic or more photo accurate blonde hair included, especially on Ultimate Edition figures, because this is your premium figure. This is a figure that you should have that detail in the hair instead of just one shade of yellow and call it blonde. Yeah, so not a huge fan of this head in general, but let's switch out the heads and look at the other head that she comes with. So taking a closer look at the other head that she comes with, this one, in my opinion, is way better than the one she comes packaged with, the smiling one. I think this looks a lot more like Tiffany. However, I'm going to be honest, I still think there's a lot left to be desired here as far as likeness goes. I still think that it's not a super accurate depiction of Tiffany. I don't know if it's them struggling with the face shape sculpt or the scan itself, but I still think that this misses the mark as far as likeness of Tiffany. I think this is the best likeness we've gotten so far across all her figures, and also that other head that this figure comes packaged with, but I still think it is a little off. Now, certain angles looks pretty good, like that angle looks really, really good, but looking at it straight on, yeah, there's something definitely off about the sculpt and the scan, and I honestly think it's the shape of the sculpt. I think they just haven't really been able to nail it here. But I do prefer this head out of the two. Now, the hair is very similar to the other one, where we have the bangs coming down. We have that hair pulled back in a ponytail, and then the hair going down the back. So the sculpt is good. But once again, Mattel, they really need to start including more detail in the hair of these women's superstars, because it's such a big part of their personalities, their characters, their look. And just the one shade of blonde seems really outdated as far as 2025 goes in women's wrestling figures. And as you can see, we got even a little braid coming down there behind the front bang, so that's cool. But yeah, I think this is the better head of the two, but I still think it is off. So let's cover the body sculpt and the attire. And yes, we are just going to get this out of the way. But they did, we'll say, upgrade the chest sculpt on this Tiffany Stratton figure. And they gave her a very prominent chest. Now, I'm going to be honest, I think they might have went a little overboard. They might have made him a little too huge, in my opinion. But either way, I do appreciate that they did include that detail. You know, she had enhancement surgery, so I think it's cool that they actually paid attention to that. And we did get a brand new, unique sculpt of her chest on this figure. But yeah, they might have gone a little bit overboard there. But either way, I think it turned out pretty good. Now, as far as the rest of the body part choices, I really like them. I think the arms work good. I think that midsection is great because it does give us that chiseled physique that Tiffany does have in her midsection. She's very muscular. She's a former gymnast. And this definitely depicts that. I think it looks excellent. And even the belly button ring, I'm trying to see. The belly button ring isn't just painted on. It looks like it's even a little bit of a sculpted piece there. So that's a really cool detail that I didn't expect until I looked at it up close. So yeah, the belly button ring looks great. I think what's really cool, and we'll get to it in just a moment, is that since we have that new waist articulation, they can really sculpt and add unique designs on the bottoms of the superstars' attire for the females. And usually it's just a plain painted piece. I mean, 9 times out of 10. So now we're able to add some unique sculpting and detail on the bottoms, which is very cool. Now, as far as the leg choices go, I think the legs could be a little bit more muscular, in my opinion. But because it's a whole new design and different parts, I wonder if they just had to go this route. But yeah, I think the legs should be a little bit more muscular here. Now, the rest of the body part choices, the boots, they look just fine. Now, taking a closer look at the attire itself, you can see that around her head she has this real intricately sculpted choker necklace that does have a lot of unique sculpting to it. Really good paint application there with the gold, the green. Looks really, really good. Now the top is such a unique piece. It's almost multi-layered. It is multi-layered in fact, where we have this underpiece sculpted, but then we have this piece going over her chest that is a separate piece glued into place presumably. And there's a lot of detail here. Now I will say, when I looked at images of this figure online, I couldn't tell if the green was a metallic, and it is. The plastic that they used on this attire does have a metallic shine. I think it could have been a little bit more metallic, but that might be me being nitpicky or me being colorblind. But either way, I think it works just fine, and I think it's really cool that the detail, like the purple and the gold, is a metallic application. I think that really looks great with the green. We have sculpting designs all throughout the top. Even these little gold studs are sculpted on. This piece that hangs down, this chain is sculpted. Even in her midsection, her torso, there's a sculpted piece of fabric that comes across there that is a continuation of her top. It looks great. On the back, we have this kind of gold chain sculpted around her waist there. And even the detail on the top or on the back as far as sculpting goes is pretty phenomenal. Now on her arms, these sleeves are just painted on, but they're painted on with a lot of intricate detail to the application of the paint. We have that metallic green with gold trim, and then the purple designs. Definitely a lot going on there. It looks good. And it goes all the way up onto her hand on both sides. Now, moving on down to her bottoms, as I mentioned, it's not just a generic piece that's painted on, which is what we've gotten in the past for pretty much all women's wrestling figures by Mattel. Here, we have a lot of sculpting and a unique shape where it goes up a little higher just under her belly button. But we have a lot of unique sculpting here on the bottoms, and it looks really, really good. Even the border has little raised edges on it that goes around. And moving it around, we even have these purple pieces that are sculpted on, painted beautifully. I really, really love that they can do that now with the bottoms on these Ultimate Edition women's figures. Now moving on down to the legs, we just have those little garters or those little straps just painted on, not sculpted there. Then we have these knee pads. Mine's a little shifted there. These knee pads that are that green, kind of metallic green. I don't want to say fully metallic green, because if you look at this figure in certain lighting, it looks metallic, and certain lighting it doesn't. But it does have a little bit of a shine to it, a little metallic shine. So yeah, that green looks really good with the gold and the purple. And then we have these sleeves that go into her boots. Now her boots are a metallic gold. They're kind of like a pewter. They look kind of dark in my opinion. And we have white on the bottom. And we have TS on the side of her boots, which is really, really cool. And we have white laces sculpted on. So yeah, as far as the body sculpt goes, I think they did a good job here. I think that they could have made the legs a little bit more muscular. And I think they might have went overboard with the size of her chest. But either way, I think the execution was good. And I do appreciate that they went the extra mile to give so much care and attention to the sculpt and to the design of her attire. So I do appreciate that. I think the part choices are pretty good, and the attire looks really, really good. All right, let's get to articulation, since we have brand new articulation for the first time ever for these Ultimate Edition women's figures in the Mattel WWE line. So starting off with the head can move in all different directions there. Shoulders on a ball joint can move in all different directions. We also have a butterfly joint, which is really, really nice that we have that. We can really, really horizontally adduct and abduct her arms, which is nice. Her shoulders on a ball joint, move in all different directions. Upper bicep swivel, double jointed elbows that can really flex. We have hands that can rotate around, extend up, flex down. We'll get to that new articulation in just one moment. We have the upper torso swivel, which moves really, really good, even with that sculpting on the midsection. The hips can move in all different directions, but yet we also have the drop-down hips, which allows for a lot of additional movement that we usually don't get in these women's figures. So it's cool that we do have these drop-down hips that can go down and really flex up and kind of extend back. But yeah, we have extra articulation there. We have an upper thigh swivel, double jointed knees that are low inhibited by the knee pads. We have this boot swivel at the top. The feet can rock side to side. They can also planar flex down, dorsiflex up. And then we have this worthless toe joint that I cannot stand this toe joint. What is the point of this? I do not like it. Now let's look at the new articulation at the waist. So as I mentioned, this has been used previously that I've seen with the Legends of Lucha Libre premium figures like the Taya, the Lady Maravilla. And what's cool is the bottoms are a separate piece, except on those figures, the bottoms are kind of like a rubber, which really allow a lot of movement. Here, the bottoms are a hard plastic, but we do have that barbell joint at that waist, and we can really flex it down. She can really lean over. She can really lean back really far. And she can really crunch to the sides really well. So yeah, the articulation here is great. I love this new waist articulation. I think you can really do some cool figure photography, cool pretty moonsaults with this Tiffany figure. I really do like that articulation. But I will say maybe in the future they need to do what Boss Fight does. And this bottom part, maybe they make it like a more pliable rubber or plastic so that you can really get a lot of movement here. Now let me show you what I'm talking about. All right, so here's a Lady Maravilla premium figure here, and it does have that barbell joint at the waist where you can really move her around, except the bottoms, and you can even hear it squeaking. The bottoms are like almost like a tough rubber. You can see I can kind of pull them back here. And that really does allow a lot more movement. So I think that eventually down the line, I'd love to see Mattel make that transition and make the bottoms kind of like that more flexible rubber or plastic that really allows a lot of movement, because this Lady Maravilla can really move at that midsection, and it's that barbell joint on top of having the bottoms be like almost a separate type piece, like a rubber. So yeah, but still the articulation works really well in that waist for the Tiffany. All right, so now it's Tiffy comparison time. These are all the Tiffany Stratton figures released by Mattel and WWE at the time of this recording, at the time of this review. And I have to say, looking at all these figures next to each other, today's Ultimate Edition absolutely blows the other figures out of the water. If you're looking for one Tiffany Stratton figure, I think by far the Ultimate Edition is the best, and I do think it's the best likeness, even though I don't think it's perfect. So let's take a look at all these one by one and compare. So on the far left, we have her first in the line figure, Basic Series 145. Next up, we had her first and only Elite at the time of this recording, Elite Series 113. Then we had Main Event Series 159, which I just posted the review up recently. And then we have today's Ultimate Edition figure. So yeah, as you can see, today's figure really does stand out for a lot of reasons, but I think the likeness is the best that we've gotten amongst all her figures. I mean, if you look at her first in the line figure, I don't know who they scanned for this figure, but that definitely doesn't look like Tiffany. That was a pretty horrendous sculpt and scan. I don't understand why this figure was released at this stage. I think they could have done better here, and the attire is just bland, just plain. So yeah, and this is a very expensive figure to find on the secondary market, so keep that in mind. Now we'll cover her Elite in 1 second. We will skip ahead to Main Event Series 159, which I did just release a review of. And this is about as mid as you can have a Main Event women's figure. I mean, they just reuse parts. The attire is painted on pretty, I guess, intricately, but uniquely, I should say. I really like that blue pattern there, but it's just kind of a mishmash here. We don't have really any unique sculpting in the body. And the head is reused from the Elite, and it just doesn't work. It's matted down here because it's meant to wear that cowboy hat. So this is just a blah Main Event figure, in my opinion. I think it's cool because it stands out from a distance, but looking at it up close, not the best. Now, looking at her Elite, I loved her Elite when it came out because it's so unique. I mean, it's in freaking Barbie-inspired attire. How cool is that? It's cool she comes with a cowboy hat in this pink and white attire. It's probably one of my favorite attires that's ever been put on a women's wrestling figure because it's just cool. It's just loud. It screams Barbie, and it's perfect for Tiffany. However, I think they did fall short a little bit on this figure as far as some sculpting and part choices. I think the chest sculpt was a little generic. I think it could have been a little more pronounced like today's. But, you know, I think it worked okay for the time when it was released. But I think what really bothered me was the midsection was just the generic midsection that they used on so many women's figures in the past. I think she should have had a more muscular midsection there that would have looked more lifelike, and we didn't get that. And on top of that, I'm just not a fan of this face sculpt and scan. I think when I first reviewed it, it was just okay, but it definitely misses the mark. And once again, I think they have trouble getting the shape of Tiffany's face down in sculpt, and this scan was just not it. Not a very good likeness here, in my opinion. So yeah, I feel like this figure did miss the mark, especially considering it's an elite. But looking at today's figure, yeah, this is the best Tiffany Stratton figure by far. If you're looking to add one Tiffany to your collection, definitely add this one. So now let's briefly talk about scale. Now, I am not a huge stickler on scale unless the figures are meant to be displayed with each other. I think that's when it really matters. Usually doesn't really affect my overall score, and it's not going to on this figure, but I just wanted to show you here. Next to the most recent Ultimate Edition Mattel and WWE put out, which is Bayley, Ultimate Edition Series 27 on the left here. Bayley's listed at 5'6", Tiffany at 5'7". I feel like Tiffany might be a little bit too tall. I think the legs should definitely be a little more muscular, maybe a little shorter in length. But once again, not a huge deal, but I just wanted to show you that because as I was reviewing the Tiffany, I thought she might be a little too tall here. And she might be, but it's not going to affect my overall score. I just wanted to show you how these two look next to each other. And Tiffany kind of towers over her, right? So overall, I give Mattel WWE Ultimate Edition Series 28 Tiffany Stratton an overall score of a 9.2 out of 10. I think there's so much to love about this Tiffany figure. And at the time of this recording, this is the best Tiffany Stratton figure we've gotten so far by Mattel and WWE, and it's not even close. Now, I do think there's room for improvement, but let's talk about the good first. As far as the attire goes, the attire is beautifully sculpted, beautiful paintwork. It is just a work of art. I really love the attire on this figure. I think they did an excellent job here. I also really like the body part choices from the waist up. I think the midsection is nice and muscular. The sculpted on belly button ring is a nice choice. And also, they put a lot of attention on her chest, right? They really did give her an updated chest sculpt, and that's something that Mattel in the past kind of strays away from, right? So I'm glad that they just went at it full force and gave us a unique chest sculpt that really does look a lot like Tiffany. And I think that this is the best likeness that we've gotten on a Tiffany Stratton figure so far. But that's where we'll get into the nitpick things, because I think the likeness is still not there. And I don't know if it's the face shape that they haven't been able to get, or if it's the scan itself, but I definitely think there's room for improvement as far as the likeness goes. Also, I want to see more detail in the color of these women's wrestling figures' hair. I want to see root colors. I want to see highlights. I want it to look a lot more realistic. I'm getting kind of sick of just the plain yellow and calling it a day, right? So I think this being an Ultimate Edition figure really makes me nitpick it more, because we should get the ultimate experience. We should get a lot more detail in the color of the hair. Also, as far as the part choices go, I think the legs are a little too thin, a little too long. I think they're a little muscular, maybe a little shorter. I think it really would have helped this figure out, but overall, I really do love this figure, and I really do suggest it out there for anyone that collects women's wrestling figures or is a fan of Tiffany Stratton. This is the Tiffany Stratton figure to add to your collection. Thanks for stopping by LumberJillville. Women's wrestling lives here. To get a first look at all featured women's wrestling figure reviews, make sure to hit subscribe and become an official resident of LJV today. Head on over to ringsidecollectibles.com and use coupon code LJV at checkout to save 10% on your next order of women's wrestling figures. Thanks for watching, and have a great night, y'all.